Knowledge is at the root of innovation for growth. With Gen AI's arrival, the potential now exists to make the major leap from a data driven to a knowledge driven enterprise. And everyone is focusing, however, on the technology's more obvious automation, efficiency benefits, and of course, debating its potential to displace jobs. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dayalani. Now, we believe that Gen AI tools will not only extend these efficiency benefits, but also empower an organization's talent to become exponentially more effective through the digitization and harmonization of knowledge, of course, tacit knowledge in particular. Now, addressing a big gap in traditional knowledge systems, Gen AI offers the power to transform the use of knowledge in every part of business and across every industry. Let's welcome Deepak Visweswariah, Senior Vice President and Managing Director at Pegasystems India, to discuss around the hype of Gen AI and how enterprises can drive value. Hi, Deepak, how are you doing?
Thank you so much, Priya, for having me on this podcast. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today, Deepak. And of course, everybody's talking about Gen AI. So, gaining some different perspective from you would definitely be very helpful for our listeners when they listen to this podcast. So, let's get started. We would like to know more about Pegasystems India. So, if you could help us understand more about the organization, its specialization, it would be great.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So, when people ask me about Pega, I typically like to say, okay, we are like the Swiss Army knife of enterprise software. But instead of having 20 different tools that you'll probably lose, we give you one powerful unified platform called Pega Infinity that actually works. So, Pegasystems, as such, is a global enterprise software company that is headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the US, with over, about 4 decades of experience, little over 40 years of experience in helping large organizations transform how they engage with customers, how they automate workflows, or how they run their operations for that matter. Pegasystems India is a strategic hub for the company. We have R&D and delivery centers in Hyderabad and Bangalore. The India teams contribute to core product development, innovation programs, and talent strategy from a global perspective, playing an essential role in really building the global impact as such, right? At its core, if you think about what Pega offers, we are the only unified low-code platform that helps enterprises automate workflows. They can also personalize customer engagement and make faster AI-powered decisions. The platform as such is used by a number of leading banks, insurance companies, healthcare companies, companies, as much as governments around the world. Predominantly, we serve the large enterprises, the largest enterprises, or our customers more often. Right? Pega is particularly known for its real-time decisioning engine, end-to-end case management, and our ability to kind of unify customer journeys across digital and assisted channels, differentiated by its architecture. Really, what sets us apart is the focus of combining artificial intelligence, automation, and decision intelligence in a way that is built into the platform, which allows businesses to really adapt and adapt quickly to change while reducing their complexity and improving outcomes. That's really what we focus on. What makes us unique, though, in our approach is what I often refer to as connected intelligence. A lot of people, you see a lot of companies maybe building point solutions, a chatbot here, an analytics tool there, whatever the case may be. But what we look to do is to create an integrated ecosystem where artificial intelligence, automation, and human expertise kind of work together seamlessly. So it's like difference between having individual musicians playing separately versus having a well orchestrated symphony, if you will. Right? That's kind of how we look at it in terms of what we offer through our flagship platform called Infinity.
Great. Thank you for, that impressive overview. And I'm really glad to see how the organization is not just filling what the market needs, but actually shaping the way, the industry is evolving. And of course, when you talk about low code platforms, I think I'm really impressed that, the platform at Pegasystems is focusing on helping customers automate workflows and ensure not just AI powered decisions, but more faster AI powered decisions. That foundation laid, let's shift gears and talk a little more about your personal journey in this space. You have over 30 years of experience in technology, and you have built and led global engineering teams driving innovation and digital transformation. So, can you tell us more about yourself? How has your journey been till date? And what exactly is your role at Pegasystems India? And how do you feel about it?
Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes when I look back, I feel privileged to have lasted this long. I think I've been in the industry for about 38 years now, and have played a lot of different, leadership roles across the board in multiple organizations, especially in the last couple of decades, leading GCCs out of India, playing those global roles. At Pega, I want to say I wear a few different hats as the head of India operations and global engineering leader. I often say my job is a part builder, a part coach, and a part storyteller. Kind of role. But jokes aside, I serve as as you said, senior vice president and managing director of Pegasystems in India. I oversee operations across Hyderabad and Bangalore. Both locations are kind of key centers for us, for global product development, R&D, innovation, and across all functions. You can look at Pega India as a microcosm of Pega Global, right? My primary focus is to ensure that Pega India Center, which has some of the brightest tech minds I've worked with, right, plays a central role in shaping our product strategy, especially in emerging areas like generative AI, cloud native architecture, low code development. Those are all major focus areas for us. I am functionally responsible for platform engineering in India, and it allows me to really lead strategic initiatives to strengthen capabilities in artificial intelligence, machine learning, low-code development, what have you, as well as the automation that we offer, supported by our COEs and structured innovation programs that we have going. Two other areas of focus for me, from a Pega India perspective, is one, how we engage with our clients who are also present in India. A lot of our global clients who have their own GCCs are present in India with their Pega practices. And I'm focused in terms of being able to build those relationships to help our customers achieve their outcomes. The second one, that I refer to, is also about how do we keep a vibrant ecosystem going. We have a phenomenal ecosystem in the country. More than 50% of our Pega developers in the world reside here in India. So we actually have a great community program and a university academy program, which we focus on, where we have brought in more than 10,000 people in the last few years, trained and out of the college as such, who are employable day one, for that matter, with a couple of different certifications from Pega when they graduate, right? So we build that vibrant ecosystem, to that end, right? And and then of course you always have to think about talent as well as culture, right? I look to drive a culture of entrepreneurship by enabling our teams to experiment, prototype, and influence the company's product roadmap as such. And then, of course, we have to focus on talent transformation, especially in this age, as far as the impact of generative AI or impact of agentic AI, as we talk about in skill sets. So particularly in emerging areas that we talked about. So the focus on future ready capabilities is something that I always look at within the organization here. So, close to 38% of the workforce for our Pegasystems as such globally resides in India. So it's a very, very strategic investment for us.
Definitely, and thank you for walking us through that. And I'm really glad to understand how your journey has been till date, and the kind of contribution that you're making at Pegasystems is very crucial because it means that staying ahead. It often means being deeply involved in both execution and long-term thinking. So thank you for sharing that, Deepak. Now, moving ahead, it's safe to say that generative AI has sparked massive excitement across industries, from marketing and design to software development and even customer service. But in many organizations, we see Gen AI being approached as a collection of isolated tools like content generators here, chatbots there, rather than a cohesive and enterprise-wide strategy. Now, this fragmented approach can yield quick wins, sure, but it often misses the transformative potential Gen AI truly offers when embedded across the full value chain. So, as businesses explore Gen AI pilots and proof of concept, a key concern emerges. Are we boxing in its potential by limiting it to one-off tasks, or are we looking Gen AI as a supplement rather than a force multiplier for innovation decision making? So this brings me to my question, which is what's missing when Gen AI is viewed through narrow siloed applications?
That's a great question. I think you hit the nail on the head, and yeah, it's very relevant because I think that's where many enterprises actually get it wrong. Generative AI applications in silos are like, if I were to use an analogy, it's like installing air conditioning in just one room of the entire house, especially during Chennai summer for that matter. Does it help? Yeah, it helps in the room. It helps, solve part of the problem, but it's not solving the bigger problem. It's not cooling the entire house or what have you, right? So the problem with narrow siloed applications, I feel is threefold. Okay, first, you get what I refer to as AI islands. I think it is very easy to imagine that, right? Each department has their own chatbot or their own analytics tool, their own automation, but none of them talk to each other. And it's like having multiple WhatsApp groups, for example, for the same family function that one is doing, which is kind of a recipe for chaos, total chaos. That's one in terms of, you end up building those islands. Second, I think one loses the context. A customer service, AI bot may not know what the sales AI promised, and may not know what the operations AI, has to do depending on what was promised, right? So none of them know what each other is doing. So there is no context among multiple agents or multiple, AI tools that are running in different, departments. So the customer really, at the end, feels like they are talking to three different companies for that matter. I think the third, which is probably more crucial, is that you cannot achieve true business transformation. I think this is what you were referring to as well. You can't really get the power of the generative AI to achieve that business transformation with point solutions. It's like trying to make being right now sitting in Hyderabad, I can use this analogy. It's like trying to make biryani by cooking rice, meat, and spices separately, and then just mixing them at the end. Is that really biryani? I don't think anyone in Hyderabad will agree that, right? The magic happens when everything cooks together, when that those flavors actually integrate together, and then that's when the magic happens. So what's really missing in that picture of siloed applications is also an orchestration layer. The ability to have these AI agents or tools that can collaborate, share context, and work towards a common business outcome rather than just optimizing on the individual metric, I think is key. I've also seen often something that's overlooked is governance. If AI is deployed in silos, it kind of becomes harder to maintain control over, whether it is data quality, privacy, compliance, what have you. that the risk only compounds pretty quickly when you're doing this at scale, especially in an enterprise, right? So at Pega, we take a holistic view. Generative AI, we consider it as something that is to be infused into the full customer journey end to end. For example, in a telecom scenario, when a customer says, I want to cancel my plan, you don't want your chatbot to just say, okay, thank you very much, goodbye. While it should actually dig deeper, understand what the sentiment was, check the usage patterns, offer them a better plan, even process a change automatically for that matter, all in a single, customer journey end to end. I think that's kind of how we look at generative AI applications to be built. And then essentially, that's also the reason why we integrate all of our capabilities into a unified platform.
Definitely, and I think that's a very powerful reflection, and it really highlights how the true promise of Gen AI extends far beyond just automation or any content generation. And I think I really liked your point that what's really missing is the orchestration layer as to how probably everything can work in an integrated environment, because it's not just about efficiencies, because we really need to focus on creating intelligence as well. I think AI is there, but again, it's very important that we build an ecosystem when it enhances the entire life cycle, for a customer life cycle from discovery to retention, while also informing and focusing on better internal decisions. Now, I mean, what you said also touches on a bigger, cultural transformation, that Gen AI isn't just about smarter tool. It's also about fostering cross-cultural collaboration and aligning data strategies. And it's that kind of connected and enterprise-grade thinking that will separate early adopters from long-term leaders in AI era. And like you also mentioned that you're not going to get, a full, true business transformation. So now we have, intelligent applications, and they're transforming how we interact with technology, and they're moving beyond traditional software to create a more adaptive, intuitive, and efficient system. Now, here, the incorporation of AI, maybe, machine learning or natural language processing, it shapes the backbone of intelligent applications. So the synergy between these AI elements and, just an app, it enables a range of sophisticated functionalities. So, what are the best practices you would recommend for designing intelligent apps but are really grounded in a real business context?
That's a great question. I think this is kind of where rubber meets the road, as I would say in engineering. The best practice I always advocate, or really try and follow almost always, is always start with the business problem and not the technology. As much as I am a deep technologist, this is something that I would actually tell everyone. Always start with the business problem, right? First, start with the business outcome, and not the technical capability or the technology, the ability of the technology as such, right? Don't ask how can we use generative AI. The ask should be, what business problem are we solving, and then how can intelligent technology help? That can actually be a means to the outcome. It's like planning a journey. You want to decide that destination first before you choose what mode of transport you may want to take, right? That's the first thing, is to really focus and start with the business problem, right? The second, I would say, in terms of the best practices for designing those applications, is designed for the human in the loop, not necessarily human out the loop. I think it is important, especially in India. We have this beautiful concept of I would say Sahayata, right? It's essentially assistance, not replacement as such. I think the best intelligent applications really augment human capability rather than trying to replace it entirely. Our Pega Generative AI coach is a good example. It doesn't make decisions for customer service agents. What it does is it provides contextual guidance so that they can actually make better decisions faster. That's the key. So you want to be able to design with human in the loop, in that sense. Third, I would say ensure that your intelligent apps can learn and adapt. That's very key in this day and age as we future proof things. This is where our approach really shines, in the sense that our applications that we build just don't execute predefined rules. They actually learn from every interaction and then continuously improve. That's something to plan for. It's like having a system that gets smarter with experience, right? Just like a good cook who adjusts his recipe based on the feedback they continue to get. That's the third thing, is about building that intelligence, the intelligent apps to be capable of learning and adapting. Fourth, I would say, build with governance and compliance from day one. This is important for AI. It is important to make sure that it is explainable. It is also, building the track record, builds the trust in customers that when they start using it. It's especially important in a regulatory environment, right? You cannot bolt on governance later after having developed everything. It needs to be kind of baked into the architecture from the beginning. I think that is important when somebody starts off with building an application, for that matter. And I would say the last thing is, not to ignore people mindset or change management. Even the smartest applications fail if users don't adopt it, right? If you build it and assume somebody will come and then use it, not necessarily always true. You have to ensure that it is adopted in the right way, for the right use cases. It's like buying a smart refrigerator, but still continuing to order groceries the same way as we always do, right? So there has to be a change in the mindset when really adopting such applications, or deploying such applications, for that matter. Those are probably my top of mind. When I look at what are the best practices for such intelligent apps.
That's a great breakdown, Deepak. And I really liked how you emphasize the importance of aligning AI capabilities with actual business needs and rather than just chasing trends or deploying flashy features. I think we really need to understand the problem we are solving and how probably an intelligent technology can help, because intelligent apps can't thrive in isolation. They need to be deeply rooted in the context. So it's very important you understand the user intent, some, either the operational pain points or specific moments that probably, affect the customer or even an employee journey for that matter. So moving ahead, so when you're talking about Gen AI, I think how do we get started? I think that's the question that most of the organizations have. Now, should we start small or go big, or is it a wiser bet for businesses to take an incremental use case driven approach, or will they lose the opportunity for competitive advantage by not placing a bigger bet on Gen AI? Because Gen AI, while it's been like an year or so, I still feel it's still in its infancy, and businesses are challenged to understand the overall investment cost and business impact. Companies should consider that adopting Gen AI in isolation may have its flashy moment, but it likely to be, less impactful and fleeting in value. Now, to maximize ROI, Gen AI should be considered in the broader context of the overall value chain, just like we discussed in the earlier question. So it's really important, you're picking up the right opportunity to focus on and then doing it right for a greater multiplier effect. So how do you think Gen AI can deliver meaningful, and how, and also in where or which cases you think Gen AI can deliver meaningful ROI for enterprises?
That's a, I would probably say that's a tough one, right? Because as you said, I think that while the technology is pervasive, the promise of the impact is huge. We've already seen the kind of impact that it can actually have, in across the board. I don't think there is an industry that does not actually have an impact based on generative AI and all of the advancement in artificial intelligence, for that matter. So as pervasive as the technology, is, it's also a pretty nascent state, right? I mean, it is we have had this whole era of artificial intelligence taking by storm over the last couple of years. So a lot of companies are actually still trying to figure out what is the best pricing model. How do I charge my customers for all of the features, functionalities that I build? How do I even figure out an ROI? I think the biggest probably challenge or mistake in trying to measure the ROI in artificial intelligence is trying to do it the same way as we measure traditional IT investments. You can't say, okay, I'm putting in $1 here, and am I, what is the outcome, or what returns am I getting, for that. AI often actually delivers. I think that you talked a little bit about this, right? It often delivers value through various different means. It can be improved decision making. It can be faster decision making for that matter. It can be enhanced customer experience. It can be operational efficiencies. It can be developer productivity. But none of these may actually show up immediately in your quarterly results, right? But how do you build on this to be able to show that consistency over time, right? So the companies, in my mind, can focus on some of the leading indicators rather than trying to show those in every quarterly report, right away. Some of these leading indicators, like decision accuracy improvements, for example, how much more accuracy have you been able to get in your decision making? Time to insight, reductions, process automation rates, those kind of things. Often, in some of the companies, and then we here at Pega, we use the concept of something called a lift. Essentially, you are measuring the boost in a success rate achieved by AI compared to other control groups for that matter, right? So that actually helps in terms of how you can actually measure some of the ROI. This it provides some concrete comparable metrics to business leaders, but it has to be a progressive nature and the ROI for AI has to be a little bit different than your traditional IT investments as such, right? Take an example, let's say taking customer service, some one offering that we have at Pega. In one of the Pega's clients, a large insurer for that matter, they were spending millions a year on service calls. So by embedding generative AI that came with the service platform, they could actually implement, let's say, things like call summaries, the next best actions, auto drafting policy explanations, or things like that, which reduced their average handling time by 30%. It improved their customer satisfaction. It cut down their agent training significantly. Those are all ROIs, in terms of that were established based on implementation of these AI features for that matter. So in my mind, ROI from generative AI comes not just from cost savings, but also better customer loyalty, faster time to market, happier employees for that matter. If you're deploying employee relations or employee tools and applications that they use in day-to-day operations. So that's kind of real business value in my mind. So that's how I would look at ROI.
Definitely, I agree with you, and thank you for that a great breakdown. And it really highlights how Gen AI isn't just a buzzword, but it's more like an experimental a playground, and it's becoming like a practical lever for business impact. And of course, I agree with you that when we're talking about ROI, it's not just financial. I think we also need to talk about the time saved or employee productivity boosted and customer experiences that feel far more intuitive and human centric. So I think right now companies really need to focus and connect Gen AI to specific outcomes rather than deploying it just for novelty. And I think organizations that are able to do that the right way, I think they can see meaningful returns in the long term.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I think generative AI will definitely open up new frontiers for innovation. I think in each of the use cases, whether it's having a hyper personalized customer experience or an advanced product design. So, how do you think, what are certain trends you think will shape the future of Gen AI, or, how do you think Gen AI will look like in the coming 5 to 7 years?
Well, the way I look at in terms of over the next 5 to 7 years, what can happen. I'm kind of looking ahead. If I had a crystal ball, there are probably a few exciting trends that shape the enterprise's use of generative AI. I would say first is the move towards truly autonomous business processes. This is something that we're already seeing this with Pegasus agentic AI capabilities, but I think it'll become a much more sophisticated, area that we will see improvements on. You can imagine business processes that can potentially self-optimize, self-heal, or even self-evolve based on some of the changing business conditions as such. Right. Second, I would say is the democratization of AI development. Again, this is also, or you will already see that in the industry. Tools like our Pega Generative AI Blueprint specifically is something that makes it possible for business users to create intelligent applications. You don't have to be a technical guru to be able to build an application using something like Pega Gen AI Blueprint. Any business user can actually go create an application. That's particularly exciting in the Indian context where we have so much domain expertise that can now be directly translated into intelligent applications. That was the second thought I had. Third, I would say is about integration of generative AI with Internet of Things or with edge computing. I think as 5G becomes more and more prevalent in India, we will see generative AI capabilities moving closer to the edge, closer to where the action happens, more in terms of manufacturing in factories, in retail stores, in vehicles, and even homes for that matter, right? I think, right now it is pervasive in enterprises, but I think it'll move towards the edge with 5G for that matter. Fourth, I would say is the what I refer to as contextual intelligence. This is AI that understands not just what you're asking, but why are you asking, and then what constraints you have, things like that, and then what success looks like for a specific situation. So that contextual intelligence, I think, is growing very rapidly. And lastly, I would say, which is crucial for enterprises, it's about seeing a lot more sophisticated governance and explainability. I talked about this earlier as to how governance need to be built into platforms. So as generative AI becomes more powerful, the ability to understand and control its decisions and making sure that human is in the loop, I think is continues to be very, very, very important. So I think it's not just about generative AI being smarter algorithms. I think it is about creating more intelligent ecosystems that can adapt, that can learn, that can evolve with a business for that matter. That's kind of what we look at and build at Pega.
Great, definitely. And I think with Gen AI technology evolving rapidly amid many unknowns, industry leaders are racing to understand the full scope of opportunities. And what is readily clear is that businesses of all walks have an unprecedented opportunity to realize the transformative value of becoming a knowledge-driven enterprise. And to seize a competitive advantage and drive growth, companies need to start turning to a strategic plan into action today. So, thank you so much, Deepak, for taking out the time and effort to be on our podcast today and helping us understand that generative AI is set to reshape how you operate, compete, and grow. And by investing in Gen AI use cases now, I think you position your enterprise to take full advantage of its potential and staying ahead of the curve as the technology continues to evolve. I think the winning edge lies in how well you integrate, scale, and optimize these tools for future success. So thank you so much for coming on a podcast today. It was lovely chatting with you, Deepak.
It was a pleasure, Priya. Thank you for having me on this, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Deepak. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or even share within your network. Stay tuned for upcoming podcasts, and you can view and listen all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.